16th. All Mexican food and fruit cutting in Netzach is only $36, not more than that. So please try to make it on the 16th and the 17th. If there's any problems with money, please let us know. We'll try to do something about it. But anyway, we're going to start learning Parshat behaalotcha. You see, guys, in Parshat behaalotcha, one of the things, please let me have your attention. One of the things that the Parsha speaks about, it's actually the incident of Miryam. Now, we're all a little bit familiar with it. You might not know the details, but we do find that Miryam started speaking a little bit negatively about her brother Moses, right? There's Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, the brother is Aaron, and then number 3 is Miryam. Miryam being the sister, she's the oldest. So she starts actually saying something negative about Moshe Rabbeinu, and we see what happens to her. Let's give the background. As you all know, in the olden days, from the beginning of creation, one of the important things for men is that their wives are beautiful for some reason. Don't ask me why. Whenever you ask a guy, do you want to date somebody? Is the girl beautiful? That's the first thing they ask about. Girls don't ask if the guy's handsome. A little bit more spiritual than us. They ask, does he have good character traits? Maybe, if they're a little bit into materialism, does he have a good job? Does he have security for me? But they don't look that much into beauty, unless things have changed in this generation that I don't know of it. So anyways, that's why from the beginning, the custom was that women, you would always put on, a lot of makeup and adorn themselves for the husbands. You actually find, if you guys look in the Midrash, what did God do when he brought Chava to Adam to get married to her? He had to make her look attractive. So the Midrash says actually God herself braided the hair of Chava, and then put jewelry on her. And the Midrash goes into details. Those really gems that is very, very hard to find. God brought it to Chava, so she came out to be a very, very beautiful lady. So women always put on makeup, obviously, for their husbands. Not, God forbid, to attract, or what do you call it? To make other men go in the wrong way. The only woman that did not put on any makeup was Moshe Rabbeinu's wife. She put no makeup. So then Miryam, the sister of Moshe, says, why don't you put on makeup like all the other women? You got a husband, Moses. So she says, you know what? My husband is not like that. She only looks at the soul, doesn't look at the physical beauty at all. He doesn't care. Miryam believed it. Okay, Moshe is Moshe, not everybody is Moshe Rabbeinu. So Miryam believed it. Until a certain incident, and that incident was that, when Moshe Rabbeinu, the Jews asked for a lot of meat in this week's Parsha, and Moshe could not provide meat for them. He got tired of it. And nation, guys, can I have your attention, please? If there's something I'm going to do outside and then come back. Seriously, let's go for a few minutes, okay? I'm pretty cool, but let's learn. Thank you. So anyway, so what happens is the Jews wanted to have meat, so Moshe tells God, I can't tolerate this. How could I bring so much meat for all these people? So God says, you know what? You need 70 people to help you. They're going to help you out with your trouble if you can't carry it yourself. And then what happens is Moshe actually gets 70 people that he knew, and then the prophecy comes upon them for a short while. It wasn't like Moses that he was a prophet 24/7. And after a while, the prophecy went away from them. They became like helpers of Moshe. There were only 2 exceptions, Eldad and Medad. These were 2 Jews. And even after God's presence went away, they continued saying prophecies. So when that happened, Miryam was right there. So Miryam says, oh my gosh, how lucky the wives of these people, because they're prophets. Then Moshe Rabbeinu's wife says, no, in Persian, Vay Barman, He says, I have pity for the wives of these people. He says, why do you have pity? He says, because from the day that my husband Moshe became Moshe prophet, he separated himself from me. Moshe never lived with his wife again after he became a prophet. So then Miryam hears that and says, oh, now I know why you don't put on makeup. Because you separate from your husband. Who are you going to put makeup for? Your own husband doesn't live with you. For other men, it's forbidden to do it. So then she went to Aaron. She goes to Aaron HaKohen, her brother, and he says, why did Moshe do that to his wife? We are also prophets. I'm a prophet. Aaron, you're a prophet. We didn't get separated from our spouses. Why is Moshe doing it? And actually, she spoke in front of Moshe. She intended for Moshe to hear and hopefully fix his ways and go back to the wife. Now, what was the mistake of Miryam? She made a mistake because Moshe's prophecy was not the same like other prophets. The Maimonides explains that Moshe Rabbeinu was a prophet 24/7. Anytime Jews had a question, he would ask, go to God and ask what the law is. Anytime that he wanted to speak to God, he was able to. So therefore, he couldn't be involved in marital relationships because when somebody's with his spouse, has to go to the mikvah, has to purify himself. He's not ready to have God's presence every second. Other prophets don't speak to God 24/7. They have to prepare themselves. If God wants, He's going to rest on them and give him a message. But Moshe had to get messages 24/7. So Moshe made a reasoning that, what, for me, that's the end of me having a marital life. Miryam didn't realize that. She thought Moshe is the same level as her and as Aaron. So when that happened, again, she didn't say anything bad about Moshe. All he said, why does he think he's better than us? And as you know, everybody, Miryam loved Moshe. Who stood up by the river when the mother put the basket of Moshe in the water? Who stood there watching what's going on? The mother couldn't. The mother couldn't tolerate it. Yocheved ran away, put him in the basket in the river, and she ran away. She couldn't see the kid dying. The Torah says Miryam stood. So actually, Miryam raised Moshe. Sorry. I'm saying he loved Moshe just like, little brother raised him. But nevertheless, this was considered to be Lashon Hara. And because of that, she gets leprosy.
It's what?
Leprosy. It's a skin disease that brings with it impurity. So she has to go outside of the Jewish camp. She can't hang around Jews for at least until she gets healed.
It's an actual disease, or it's like spiritual?
It's a spiritual disease that you see in the skin, but it's a spiritual disease.
How do you see something?
So in these days, it doesn't happen. In the olden days, the skin would turn white, and then 2 hairs within that plague, within that spot, would turn white too.
Why does that not happen?
Why doesn't it happen today? Very good question. They say if you have a very white cloth and then one black spot falls on it, you see it. But if the entire clothes is dirty, so add another spot. Doesn't make a difference. In the olden days, people were much higher level. So when they said one language of Lashon Hara, so they saw the effect in the body. Now we all messed up anyways after the destruction of the temple. We're like so dark because we don't see godliness. So therefore, it doesn't really make a difference because we are dark anyways. But that's basically the simple answer. So anyways, what happens is, so then, actually, according to one opinion, Aaron also gets leprosy, but he gets healed right away. The reason why Aaron got healed right away, because he's not the one that spoke Lashon Hara. It wasn't him. He just listened. Miryam started it. So then Moshe prays to God, and God says, you know what? She has to stay out of the camp for a week. After a week, she will come back to the Jewish people. So actually, here is one of the instances in the Torah that we find that God does not appreciate, doesn't like. When one person says evil about another person, even if he's not saying something evil. Miryam did not say one bad word. He just misjudged Moshe. He thought Moshe is not as high as he makes himself. So he got punished. So we're going to discuss a little bit about the sin of Lashon Hara, people. I'm sure everybody knows what it is, right? We're going to discuss it a little bit. Why is it really so bad? Why isn't it good at all? Not only that, let me just go. It might be a little bit repetitious. You might have spoken about this before, but honestly, it's something that needs to be repeated many, many times. And the more we think about it, we internalize it. It's going to be something very wonderful. So, anyways, there's a book of the Chafetz Chaim called Shmirat HaLashon, Guard Your Tongue. Thank God he has been translated into English. I've even done it into Persian a little bit. Many, many languages it's translated. We have actually a few volumes in the shul. They even have like a short version of it. If you have no time to go through the whole thing, they have like a kitzur short version of it. So Veda Chafetz Chaim proves that the main reason why Jews suffer in exile is not because of any other sin but gossiping. He brings 2 proofs. Let's go through 2 proofs. Proof number 1 is from the Gemara. There's a Talmud, there's the Gemara, that it says in times of the first Beit HaMikdash, why did the first Beit HaMikdash get destroyed? So many Jews went to exile, so many people died, because there were 3 major sins: adultery, idolatry, and bloodshed.
Bloodshed.
Bloodshed is murder. Adultery, idolatry, and bloodshed.
Oh, shed.
Yeah. It means murder. Murder.
And what was the first two?
Adultery, going with other women, and idolatry is worshiping idols. Worshiping idols, adultery, and murder. Now, what adultery is going with a married woman.
Oh, having an affair?
Having affairs, yeah. So what happens is, um, we understand why there was such great punishments for these three sins, because the Talmud says that whenever a person has the opportunity, somebody comes and says, "I'm going to kill you, otherwise, unless you're going to do a sin for me, cook for me on Shabbat. I'm hungry." So you're allowed to do every sin because your life is more important, except three. Three sins we're not allowed to do. I cannot commit adultery to save my life. I can't kill somebody else to save my life, and I can't worship idols to save myself. So these are the sins that a person has to give up his life. So in the times of the first temple that he committed these three sins, we understand why it's such a severe punishment. So much death, destruction of the temple. But the Gemara right away asks, in the second Beit HaMikdash, Jews were religious. The language of the Gemara is they studied Torah, they kept the mitzvot, they even did kind acts to each other. So the Gemara says, "Mipnei ma chara Beit HaMikdash." So why did the second Beit HaMikdash get destroyed? They were so religious, and the religion couldn't protect them. So the Gemara says because they had hatred for no reason. The language of the Gemara is sinat chinam, which means baseless hatred. The Chafetz Chaim adds that it wasn't just baseless hatred in the heart. If I just hate somebody in my heart and I don't do anything, the Chafetz Chaim learns that the punishment is not that bad, that you have to get destroyed, get killed. They actually verbalized it. When they hated somebody, they went around and slandered and they gossiped behind his or her back. So from here we see, and the Gemara goes on to say, okay, which sin is worse? Which one was worse? Adultery, idolatry, murder, or Lashon Hara? So there's an argument in the Gemara. The Gemara says Lashon Hara is worse than all the other sins. It's actually equal or worse than the other three sins. And the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan proves it. After destruction of the first temple, after 70 years, we went to Jerusalem again. After 7 years, the second temple was built. But now, we're already in exile almost 1955 years, and it's not rebuilt yet. Because if God is going to build it and we continue talking Lashon Hara, he has to destroy it again. So what's the point of building it? But
So just so we're clear, Lashon Hara is when you're talking behind someone's back.
even if it's true, but your intention is to make him look bad.
What if you just don't say their name?
Well, if that nobody knows who you're talking about, it's not Lashon Hara. But let's say if you don't say the name, but they figure it out, it's still Lashon Hara.
So you could just say it to their face.
Face of the guy?
Yeah.
If there's nobody around, you could tell him. It might be a different sin, not Lashon Hara. But if you said in front of his face and the other people around, it's Lashon Hara and embarrassing him.
No, just face to face.
Face to face again, if he gets embarrassed, you embarrassed him. But it's not Lashon Hara.
But in a private setting.
Yeah, it's not Lashon Hara. It's a different sin. If he gets embarrassed, you embarrass him.
What if you're trying to warn someone about, like, let's say you want to like go start dating someone and like they're speaking, like someone else is speaking badly about like someone else, like don't date this person because of this and that. That's more like a safety warning or something.
It's a very good question, but number one, you have to know for a fact that it's absolutely true. It's not what I heard somebody said. And number two, you have to know that it's something that everybody or this guy for sure will break it up. I mean, I'll bring you an example. I have to go back soon because I want to finish this. But let's say if somebody has diabetes, Rabbi Vadi says you don't have to say it anymore if the guy has diabetes or the girl has it. You know why? Because with medication and healthy food and healthy diet and exercise, even the guy with diabetes lives for 80 years, 90 years. But let's say if somebody is on medication to be balanced, or if somebody is adopted, everybody has to know the parent of the kid is. So he has to say it. If not, then there are cases that you could say it over just to save the guy. But even then, your intention has to be solely to save the other person. If I hate this guy, I'm looking for opportunity to say bad about him, even if I'm saving the other guy, but I'm enjoying saying bad about him, that's Lashon Hara. You can't talk about it.
What about like a therapist, but like your friend's your therapist?
First of all, it doesn't have to know who your friend is. You think you want to vent to help you.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to say it, but I can ask a rabbi. Certain cases, you're allowed to say it. Because your intention is not to make him look bad, is to whatever, get something out of it. So sometimes you're allowed to. You had a question.
You said how like if somebody wants to kill you, you can't kill them.
No. If somebody says, kill that guy, otherwise I'm going to kill you. I'm not talking about self-defense. You're allowed to kill this guy if you can, but you can't go kill the third person to save yourself.
So let's say Abby says you have to kill Oliver, or else I kill you.
Yeah, so then kill this guy. Don't kill Oliver.
Oh, I kill him.
Yeah, because you want to save your life. But if you can't save your life, he has a gun, you don't, you can't go kill him. Yeah, please. Basically, don't kill Oliver. Don't kill Oliver. If you want to kill somebody, kill a terrorist. Okay. Not Hollywood. I'm just kidding. Go in the Israeli army, kill the terrorists. Anyways, let's go further, guys. Let's get back to the Torah study. So, anyways, from this Gemara we saw, whenever I see kids playing, these killings in the Nintendo games.
Modern Warfare 2.
Whatever. So I said, make sure you kill the terrorists. So going a little bit further, guys. Anyway, so this is Gemara number 1, that we see Lashon Hara is worse than all the other sins. There's also another Medrash, which is a very, very interesting Medrash, very severe Medrash. The Medrash says, when Moshe Rabbeinu went, he went, to the Jewish people when he was 18 or 20, to have your attention, guys. So he went to kill, he saw an Egyptian beating up a Jew. So Moshe Rabbeinu kills the Egyptian. The next day, so it says like this, Vayifen koveko. He looked this way, he looked the other way, Vayar kienish, he saw there is no man. So he killed the Egyptian. So it simply means Moshe was worried. If somebody's going to see him, he's going to tell Pharaoh. He's going to tell Pharaoh. So he looked this way, there was no non-Jew there, no Egyptian. He looked the other way, didn't find any other Egyptian. And that's what he says. He saw there's nobody, then he killed the man. But the rabbis had a problem with this explanation because Moshe didn't run away. Right? I'm sorry. I messed up. Hold on. This is number 1. Number 2, the next day he goes and he's checking out what Jews are doing. He sees 2 Jews are fighting. So that hurts him a lot. So it tells you, wicked one, why do you want to hit your friend? He calls him wicked. How did Moshe know he's wicked? Because he raised his hand. And he didn't say, why did you hit your friend? Why do you want to hit your friend? That means he just raised his hands before he hit him. By raising the hand, if I'm intending to hit somebody, I'm already wicked. Please do not learn from those parts of the world that men think they have permission to beat up their wives. You raise your hand, you're a wicked person. All right? Ready, everybody? Let's go a little bit further. So then the guy tells Moshe, who made you a leader here? You want to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? And it says Moshe was afraid. It says Vayira Moshe was afraid. Vayomar, and he said, Achen no da'adabar, the thing is known. What was Moshe afraid of? Simply was afraid of his life. And then he said, it's known. What's known? The fact that I killed the Egyptian. So, you get that, guys? You got to concentrate on this. It says Moshe was afraid, and he said the thing is known. Simply was afraid of his life, and it's known that I killed the Egyptian. The rabbis had a problem with that. If Moshe was afraid of his life, why didn't he run away? He did not run away. Pharaoh caught him, and he gave him to the executioner, and they took a sword to break his neck. A miracle happened, his neck turned into marble, and then it hit the executioner. That's when he ran away. How do the rabbis know that? It's not clear in the Torah. Because Moshe named his first son Eliezer, and he said, I call him Eliezer because God saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. Should have said God saved me from Pharaoh, not from the sword of Pharaoh. So they learned that the sword actually was put on his neck. So if he was afraid of his life, why didn't he run away? Why did he wait to get caught? And then when he saw, wow, his neck turned into marble, then he got the courage to run away. So because of that, the rabbi said Moshe was not afraid of his life. When he said Moshe was afraid, he was afraid that the Jews will never get saved again. That's what he was afraid of. And why was he afraid? He says, now it's known to me why the Jews don't deserve to get saved. What was known to him? He thought, you know what? Because Jews speak Lashon Hara. What did this guy say? He says, you're going to kill me? I'm going to tell Pharaoh. He said, I'm going to tell Pharaoh. So he says, oh my gosh, if there is Lashon Hara amongst the Jews, then they don't deserve to get saved. Right? Now, I just want to ask something, people. Other nations speak Lashon Hara too. And Moshe was saying, I studied all the books. What did Jews do worse than any other nation that deserve to be slaves? So he says, oh, they speak Lashon Hara. Other people don't gossip. Watch CNN every minute. It's a gossiping about somebody else. Especially if you're a Republican. Right?
Right.
So everybody's, but the answer is Jews are united. And therefore Lashon Hara destroyed them the most. But what do we see from here? If let's say you're in exile, you could have a good life. It could be healthy, make a lot of money, no problems at all. But it says if they speak Lashon Hara, so I understand how they deserve to be slaves. So from here we see that actually, guys, again, I see a lot of unity here. Thank God. Will you guys get along? I see that you guys smile so much because you love each other so much. It's not because we get distracted. It's because we love each other. That's it. It's not smiling of making fun of the other guy's face. Of course not.
Of course not.
I know, of course not. No,
Never.
never. You love each other, obviously.
All friends. All love.
I believe that. Snake?
We don't do that around here.
What snake?
Like,
I don't know if he said that, not me.
Oh, that's a snake was the first one that said Lashon Hara. But anyways, so Moshe Rabbeinu says, understand they deserve punishment because they speak Lashon Hara. People, I just want to discuss this thing. Why is speaking Lashon Hara so bad that the Jews deserve to suffer in exile? Why is it worse than adultery? Why is it worse than not keeping Shabbat? A very, very serious question. Anybody has any idea why Lashon Hara is so bad that it brings the worst punishment upon Jews? Any ideas, people? Let's pay attention. Why is Lashon Hara so bad?
it brings division.
Okay, what's so bad about division?
We start fighting instead of focusing on the important issues.
So you're saying unity is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I believe that. There's other explanations too, but that's very good. It's a good explanation. So you see, the Chafetz Chaim tries to bring three reasons. He says, reason number one, if Jewish people do sins between themselves and God, there is no punishment until the angel who's in charge of punishment comes and testifies against him. It's exactly democracy like this world. If you do something, they take you to court. They don't punish you, right? So there has to be arraignment, whatever it is. You have your defendant and you have the district attorney, whatever it is. Forgive my accent. I might say it in a funny way. But again, you have the prosecutor. So once they judge, and if the prosecutor wins, they throw the guy in jail or any other punishment. But as long as there's no prosecution, except if you're a Republican, obviously, you are innocent until proven guilty. Correct?
Correct.
So as long as, I don't say anything bad about another Jew, another human being, as long as I don't want to hear accusation of somebody else. So when Rosh Hashanah comes and the Satan is about to accuse Jews, God says, I don't want to hear it because I don't see Jews accusing each other. They don't accuse each other at all. So therefore, I don't want to hear the accusation either. You hear that? So somebody could not keep Shabbat, could do nothing, doesn't keep anything. As long as we're united, we're all one, so God doesn't want any accusation. However, if God forbid, what happens is I say Lashon Hara about somebody, so I accuse him. Even if I don't accuse him, I'm okay to listen to somebody else's accusation. So then Satan's mouth is open. He will just say bad about all the things that Jews did. So according to this explanation of Chafetz Chaim, as long as Jews are good with each other, even if they do the worst sin against God, God will not allow the Satan, the Satan, to speak bad about the Jews. You basically go unpunished. I'm not saying you're doing the right thing. You basically go unpunished. I was involved one time I heard this from the Lubavitch Rebbe myself. When I was 19, I think how old was I? No, not 19, I don't know. I guess I was 19, 21, maximum was 21. And then we had, one of the guys that was in yeshiva with me, his name was Shmuel. And after yeshiva was over, he went to a summer camp in New York. And during the 3 weeks, it was a 15-passenger van that he was in, turned over. So everybody, thank God, was safe. He's the only one that died.
Wait, how?
I got into an accident, the car turned over, he died. In an accident.
Only one out of the 15.
Out of the 15, yeah. 15 then, 1-5. So then that Shabbat, the Lubavitch Rebbe spoke. Again, I wasn't there, I was in Los Angeles then, but they repeated what the Rebbe said. So the Lubavitch Rebbe cried, and he said he did not deserve to die. The reason why he died is because there is hatred amongst the community, and people saying Lashon Hara, and when that happens, the most innocent goes away. I had no idea, where does he get this from? I can't question him. He knows 10 times more than all of us, infinite more than all of us. But the Chafetz Chaim brings from the Zohar. The book of Zohar, which is the book of Kabbalah, says, if God forbid somebody speaks Lashon Hara, so you're actually unleashing the power of the Satan, and it could even hurt somebody that's on the other side of the world. It's from the Zohar Kodesh. So again, once we speak bad, we accuse somebody, we listen to accusation, then we give permission to Satan to accuse the Jewish people of the whole world. That's number one. Number two, if let's say punishments are supposed to come, prayer is very powerful to hold back the punishment. But that's as long as our power of speech is not contaminated. When I don't keep Shabbat, right, that doesn't touch my mouth. Nothing to do with power of speech. If I don't eat kosher, right, has nothing to do with my power of speech. Nothing to do with it. Or any other sin. The moment somebody speaks Lashon Hara, he has contaminated his power of speech. So the Chafetz Chaim says, as soon as the words of prayer go out, or words of Torah go out, because I've contaminated my power of speech, before they get to heaven, so evil already catches these words. They can't go to heaven to actually protect us. That's reason number two, why Lashon Hara is so bad. He brings reason number three. Guys, if I give you a thread, it's very easy to rip it. Now let's go make the thread into two. Still easy. But could you imagine if we give you like 20, 30 threads and you twist them? Or make a rope made out of 100 threads. That is not so easy to rip it. So it says when you do one sin many, many times, no matter how thin, and again, I'm using a wrong word, but in our understanding, no matter how insignificant that sin might seem to me, even though no sin is insignificant, anything against God's will can't be called insignificant. If I call it not important because I don't see the severity, but let's say we call it in our terminology, if I do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times, so it's not anymore, it's a very thin thread. It becomes a huge rope. Especially Lashon Hara, which is such a big sin, as we proved. It gives power to the Satan to accuse us. And then we said it contaminates the power of speech, which is a gift that God only gave to human beings. Animals can't speak. They could express their feelings by screaming, making noises, but they can't express any wisdom. They have no power of speech really to communicate like a human being. So if the gift of God, which is the highest gift, we contaminate it, obviously it's a big sin, and it gets repeated more than any other sin. Let's go through these guys. If somebody doesn't keep Shabbat yet, Shabbat is not every day, it's once a week. So the guy is sinning once a week. Bad, but it's once a week. If somebody goes on barbecues on Yom Kippur, God forbid, Yom Kippur is only once a year. Important day, but it's once a year. If somebody doesn't keep kosher, in the United States, honestly, almost unless you don't go to seafood or chicken and meat, almost every food is kosher. Any tuna can you go, the almost OU. Any dairy is almost OU. Any bread you get is almost OU. Honestly, you go to any store, you find kosher food. So even if a person is non-kosher, he goes to Sizzlers, whatever you want to call it, Jack in the Box, all this garbage that is in the world. Next time it's Joseph in the Box, Or you woke up. Even let's say if you do the worst food, cheeseburger, how many times a day you gonna eat cheeseburger? Twice a day. Most of the food is kosher. Is good.
So is there a level of I don't know how to put this. So let's say you're having a cheeseburger compared to a non-kosher salmon. Is there like a level of sin?
Yeah, first of all, seafood is very much worse, and then also cheese and meat cooked together is pretty.
Let's say just the meat, not the cheese.
It's very bad, but again, it's not as bad as having a cheeseburger.
Bacon cheeseburger.
Also, people that eat, they're all bad. It's all spiritual death. But again, let me finish. When somebody keeps non-kosher food, so again, it's twice a day maximum. But gossiping is 10, 15 times a day. That's what the Chafetz Chaim says.
It's no good.
Because of that, the sin is, guys, very, very bad. So again, I just wanted to discuss this with you. Please, guys, when we get this temptation to say something bad, let's just think for a moment. Did God really give me this gift of speech for me to abuse it, use it against somebody else? Or did he give it to me to use it for something holier? Again, guys, the proof that your tongues, your power of speech is very holy is from the fact that this is one of the only things that has 2 covers. Your eyes has only 1 cover. The Gemara says, why did God give you earlobes? So if somebody wants to say something bad, cover it up. So there's only 1 cover, and you have to pick it up. But your tongue has 2 covers, the teeth and the lips. This is exactly like the place that you put the Sefer Torah. There's the Aron, and then the curtain that covers it. It's holy of holies. That's what it is. So therefore, we got to actually use it for good things. Another way that they actually encourage us not to speak Lashon Hara, imagine the guy standing there and he's begging you, please don't say that bad thing about me, or switch the situation. I'm about to say something bad about you. I'm just, chas v'shalom, nothing bad to say about you. When you go on a date, you only say good things. Grab him. That's it. And you're standing there. Wouldn't you say, I beg you, Rabbi, don't say a bad thing about me? Right? So how could I say bad about you if I was in the same situation? I would beg this guy not to say something bad. We should really take it to heart and be very serious about it. That's number one. Number two, I want to talk about something else, guys, which actually I think this relates to all of us. In the beginning of the portion of the Torah, talks about lighting the menorah, the candelabra in the temple. Okay, so the language usually, how do you say for lighting, guys? The girls that light Shabbat candles, when you light a candle, what bracha do you say? Asher kishon something like, what's that? Lahadlik ner shel Shabbat kodesh. Now, what? So the word for lighting is lahadlik. Which light is it? Which word is it used in this week's parsha? When God tells Aaron go light the menorah in the temple, it does not say lahadlik. It says behaalotcha. When you elevate yourself, actually, behaalotcha means to light, but it doesn't say the word lahadlik. Why? Because Aaron had a commandment. You know, sometimes when you light a candle, the fire doesn't really catch that well. It flickers. It takes a while till it catches, right? That it stands really without flickering. So the mitzvah of Aaron was you have to hold the fire until it catches the wick and is not flickering anymore, right? Now Kabbalah explains that really Aaron lighting the candle, he was lighting the soul of every Jew. The candelabra resembles our souls. That's why we have 7 candles there, because there are 7 levels of serving God, which I'm ignorant about it. I just know 2 of them. Some people serve God out of love. Some people serve God out of fear, afraid, whatever it is. But there are 7 ways, 7 paths of serving God. So Aaron's job was, because we're in a physical body, that love and service of God that we have might be extinguished or seem to be extinguished. When he lit the candles, his intention was to actually light the soul within us. That's what it accomplished. Every group of Jews, doesn't matter which level they belong into, right? So actually, this is the candelabra is every single one of us. So the light has to be shining within us, and at the same time, we have a job to go and actually shine other Jewish people too. Remember that guy? You are the candle that Aaron HaKohen, Aaron the priest, lights it for us. He's the one that lights it, and our job is to go make somebody else, lit. There was actually a story, the Rebbe Rashab. He was the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I think really this applies to all of us. So they asked him one time, what's the difference of your boys in your yeshiva, the Chabad yeshiva, more than other yeshivas? There's many yeshivas. You had yeshiva from times of Moses. Even from before Moses, you had yeshiva. So why do you make so many new yeshivot? What's the big deal? That's the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe. What do you think he answered people? You tell me. What's the difference of guys? What's the difference of the Chabad boys?
Rabbi.
Sorry to interrupt you. There's somebody's blue car is covering a blue BMW. It's covering somebody who needs to go from the.
What's the blue car?
It's a blue BMW.
Blue BMW. Anybody has blue BMW?
I guess we found out. Is that him?
Justin, but oh,
Anybody has blue BMW blocking somebody?
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to be finishing in 3 minutes, people, because we have to go to eat. So they came to Rabbi Rashab. Why is your students from Chabad different than any other students? So you know what he said, people? He says our students are candles that light other places too. In the olden days, there was no electricity. So somebody had a job to take a torch and actually go light the other torches in the street for people to have light. And he says, imagine there's ocean in the way. It says, my boys dropped in the ocean, they travel, they get to the other side in the island, and they light the candles. This is every single one of you guys. You have to light your own candle, which is lit. The fact that you go to Torah studies, right? We come here to study, we're not here to eat food. We study, our lights become fantastic, they start shining. So then when we eat the food gets elevated to God. It doesn't take us down. That's the way it really is. So you have to make yourself shine, and then you meet your friends in college, at work, you make them shine too. That's called nerot lehayu, candles to illuminate. That's what every single one of you guys are good.
In regards to what you said to, spreading what we know from today, I think we should all take something we learned today and say it at our Shabbat dinner this week.
Definitely. You know what's a good thing to say on Shabbat table? When we're sitting together, we get tempted to talk about everybody in the world. Correct?
Correct.
So instead of saying bad about somebody else, we have to take up on ourselves, say good about
So
somebody.
yeah, that's what I think everybody here should promise Rabbi and I that they're going to say something that they learned this week at the Shabbat table. Can I get an eye?
I'm telling you guys.
I was like 10 eyes.
Aye.
Can I get an eye? Aye. Thank you.
I'm serious, guys. Do not underestimate yourself. One good act could bring Mashiach faster. One good act. You believe that? One good act could bring Mashiach fast. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Before we go, please, guys, remember, thank you.